Kyle, I believe everyone is on for the meeting.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay. Melissa Hunsaker will take attendance at this time.
Mr. Steve Holland. Mr. Larry Stern.
Present.
Mr. Wayne Wentz.
Present.
Mr. Thomas McCarroll. Mrs. Suzanne Halland.
Present.
Present.
Mr. Kyle Spots.
Present.
And Mr. Jonathan Cleaver.
Present.
Okay. Any public comment on the agenda items at this time?
Kyle, just to, it's the Pledge of Allegiance on the thing.
Before we get started, can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty
and
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
Okay. All right, sorry about that. Any public comment at this point, Mr. Cleaver?
At this point, there are none, Mr. Spots.
Okay. Some old business, just to recap, PIAA sports status. Everything's progressing through the fall season. We wrapped up the regular season here by the end of this week in some sports, and next week for all the sports except for football. Football wraps up in the end of October. Fortunately, we have had no issues on our end as far as participation and student wellness. The sports seasons has been progressing nicely. The PIAA is planning on starting the winter sports position on time with a normal start time for that. Spectator attendance last week, there was additional guidance for spectator attendance that came from Governor Wolf's office. Now it is a formula based on the capacity of your stadium or gymnasium. Based on our numbers, we could fit about 180, 200 people in the high school gym, given the restrictions, and the stadium is about 800 people we could fit in. So for the sports of soccer and field hockey, we have not had any restrictions in place since these come out, because we just aren't ever going to get that 700 or 800 number for a field hockey or soccer game. Volleyball, same situation. We've been monitoring the spectators as they come in, and we have not been near the 200 attendance factor for that. So we've been able to allow additional spectators for those sports into the facilities based on those guidelines. And then football, the expansion has allowed for us to, instead of issuing 2 per participant, we are now able to offer 3 tickets per participant for all the heightened individuals. The away teams still remain at 2. By adding an additional one to that, puts us about 750, 800 people roughly for a home football game. So that's where we're at with the spectator attendance. Obviously, all spectators are required to social distance and wear masks upon entry into any of our facilities. Coaching positions, positions for winter sports. There'll be some coaching hires on the agenda for October 26th. The coaching positions are all assistant winter positions. I will provide you with a list of names and positions now. Angela Gagno will be volunteer for JV and varsity girls basketball, or is interested in being a volunteer. Brandon Brownmiller, assistant wrestling coach, same capacity as last year. Michael Snyder, middle school girls basketball coach. Dave Yob, assistant girls basketball coach. Jeff Miller, assistant boys basketball coach. Rick Hunsiker, assistant boys basketball coach. Will White, assistant boys basketball coach, which would be the freshman coaching position. Bart Meese, middle school wrestling coach. Joe Tarter, middle school wrestling coach. JC Dietz, middle school boys basketball coach. And Joseph Reswick Jr. would be assistant varsity girls basketball coach. Mark Mahalko, assistant wrestling coach. Terry Smith, assistant wrestling coach. And that leaves us with 2 positions that at this point are not filled. All of those except for Jeff Miller have been coaching in the past. So they're not necessarily any new hires, they're just rehires from the previous season or filling in a vacancy that was posted. We do have a middle school girls basketball position and middle school boys basketball position that are still unfilled. Middle school girls, we have had some applicants, we just haven't had the opportunity to do interviews yet, which that'll probably occur for that one position looking at next week. Interviews will consist of myself, Mrs. Howland, and the head girls basketball coach, most likely. So that'll probably be on the committee that does the interview, and then that committee will make a recommendation to the board on any hires for that position. These all the other positions we are going to repost the middle school boys basketball. We have one position and we don't have any other applicants, so that position will be posted. But those are the list of names and the positions for those winter sports positions that we're looking to fill. So all those names I listed today will be if there's no concerns with anybody or any concerns from the committee members, those names will be listed on the board agenda for the 26th of October. Okay, athletics, building grounds update. There's really no update. Like I said, everything's kind of winding down at this point with the regular seasons wrapped up. It's hard to believe that we made it through almost the end of the regular season, given the, concerns at the onset of the fall sports season. But, everybody's done their due diligence and we made it through the year for the most part. So we'll be wrapping up a lot of sports this week and early next week, and then moving on to playoffs for those that qualify. Schuylkill League update. We have a league meeting on Thursday at 1 o'clock. So at that point, if there's any league update information or any concerns with the league, that would be addressed at that point. But that's our next league meeting, Thursday, October 15th. District 11 update. Just winter sports. Right now, the start date for winter sports, the first day of practice is November 20th, with the first competition scheduled to be played December 11th. So the first day of practice is tentatively November 20th, and the first competition date is December 11th. There's still a little bit of unknown with winter sports, mainly with sport of wrestling and how they're going to handle, tournaments and stuff like that, where there's exposure to multiple teams and individuals. So that's kind of the one sport that is a little bit of an unknown at this point, but everything that we are hearing from the PIAA is that the plan is to continue moving forward with the winter sports season. An additional note for District 11 update, District 11 football members opted out of the PIAA state playoffs. The way the PIAA did their football state playoffs this year is they condensed the state playoffs by 2 weeks. So they wanted to wrap up the weekend of Thanksgiving, so the end of November. Therefore, they cut 2 weeks off the end of the season. And in order for District 11 to send a state qualifier, it would have they would have had to do so without playing any games, so it would have been the highest ranked team. They did a poll of the schools to determine whether they should opt out of the state playoffs and just play for a district championship this year. And it was pretty unanimous according to our District 11 president. So therefore, District 11 opted out in the sport of football, and there will just be a district championship this year. In our bracket, there will be 8 teams that qualify in 4A, and there'll be a 3-week tournament, and the winner, it will be crowned district champion, and that'll be it. All other sports will continue as normal for District 11 playoffs, and then advance to state playoffs depending on the number of qualifiers and who qualifies. PIAA update, kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Still planning on moving forward with everything come winter sports, and really no restrictions at this point that's been brought to our attention with those sports. Governor spectator guidelines, touched on earlier. There was a formula that came out Wednesday or Thursday last week, I believe, that issued a number and percentage of capacity that you could have in your facilities. So based on those criteria, we touched on what was allowed in each of those sports. Hosting of playoffs was something that I wanted to discuss by the committee. Every year in the past, 4 or 5 years, we've put in the host district playoffs and PIAA state playoffs and Scuba League playoffs in a number of sports, and we've been fortunate to be a facility and venue that has hosted more and more of those games as the seasons have progressed. Wasn't sure what the committee's thoughts were on hosting this year. I know in talking with Mr. Cleaver, our thought was that to avoid any indoor hosting of playoffs, so that would mainly impact volleyball at this point for the fall season, just because of the number of people that would be coming in, and it just would be an exposure to a school that at this point, personally, we didn't feel was worth it. Thought process on putting into host outside playoffs. Just wanted to see what the committee's discussion is. At this point, I'm not sure what District 11 or state plan is. The Schuylkill League soccer playoffs are being held at North Schuylkill this year. So that's one, we usually hosted them for the last 4 or 5 years. So we are not hosting them this year. It would just be a matter of District 11 soccer or football playoffs, the opportunity to host at our facility. Just wanted to see if the committee members had any concerns or no issues with that. Generally, how it works for the hosting of playoffs is we put in a cost of what it costs us to host the facility. They cover our costs. We'll get a check to reimburse all of our workers, rental fee, expected expenditures, and then any additional revenue is usually brought in from parents clubs. But this year, we haven't had concession stands open, which is the main source of income from the parents club. So I'm not sure if we would revisit that if we were hosting playoffs or not, but we haven't allowed any concession stands to be open at this point this year just because of the risk of exposure. So I guess at this point, I'll turn it kind of over to the committee to see what their thoughts are, conversation on it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Wayne.
Okay. Yeah, my thoughts are absolutely. If we can host something, I know people that don't attend these games don't understand that also benefits the community, gas stations, restaurants, and grocery stores, whatever, these people coming in from the outside. So yes, I'm all for it. If we can host something, I'm good.
This is Steve, and I'm in favor of it. I do like to show off Lehighton whenever we can. Thank you.
Myself, Kyle, I don't have an issue with hosting as long as we do the proper bill back and get the monies that are due to us. And as I know, some of that hasn't happened in the past. We just got to make sure we get the money back for what we're expending to support these playoffs from District 11.
Absolutely, yeah, and I don't think we've ever had an issue from District 11 or PIAA getting any funds back. It's just a matter of of, getting the proper expenses put together and the numbers put in, and when we submit to host, getting all that documentation submitted and make sure those numbers are correct. So with that conversation, I have no problem hosting the events. It's an opportunity to bring schools here, and we've been fortunate enough to get that. I'm not sure what the process is going to be this year. I know there's been discussion of playing stuff at the higher seed, so that way it's not two neutral teams playing. It's, the higher seed team hosts, kind of like what they used to do, just for this year. But I just wanted to run it by the committee and see what their thoughts are before we made a decision. Okay. Any other new business or items to discuss from the committee members before we turn it over to public comment?
Kyle, could I say that I want to thank our custodians and our grounds people for keeping our buildings, our fields, everything safe for not only our students, for the opposing team and the people that come to these sporting events. I want to thank them all for doing such a wonderful job and keeping us all safe. Thank you.
Yeah, just, add to it, everyone that's been involved in the process, it's a unique year, and everyone, I feel, that has come to our venues, and along with the coaches and players, have done everything that we've asked them to do. And it shows, because we've had, zero issues, and, from the trainers, the coaches, the athletes, to, everybody involved, I think has done a tremendous job to get us to the point where we're at this year, that we've had, a large amount of the season played, in some aspects, all of the season played for those sports, which, I don't know how many people thought that was going to be realistic at the beginning of the year. So I think, it would be a testament to all those involved that we got to where we are. Any other comments or anything before we turn it over to public?
We have no public comment requested at this time. Oh, hold on. Ms. Bose?
Yeah, I'd like to know if this meeting is being recorded.
I will have to it should be recording automatically, but I will.
Because it
I'll
doesn't
have to double
say
check.
it's being recorded, and normally it does.
Yes, you are correct. I do not. So usually they are set up to record automatically.
Because that was the motion that was passed, was all committee meetings would be recorded as well. On the subject of hosting playoffs, etc., and comments that were made that it benefits the community, which I can understand that, but with reduced capacity in restaurants, etc., and the risk of bringing COVID in from outside, it just might be something else you want to think about. And since we're not doing temperature taking, as far as I know, for spectators that would be indoors, etc., that might be another thing that you want to think about. While it's not necessarily indicative of COVID, it's an extra layer of protection for the entire community. Thank you.
Just a comment, I believe Kyle and Mr. Spots and Mr. Cleaver recommended no indoor hosting of activities. So I don't think that would be a concern from that part. But boy, Barb, thank you very much.
Mr. Bradley? Mr. Bradley?
Yep. So
Yes.
I definitely agree that temperature taking is a great filter to ensure the safety of the people in the community, and it just adds to the feeling of security, whether it's actually beneficial or not. That layer of protection makes sense. It also weeds out and helps people self-weed out if they're not feeling up to speed. did we check the budget for the athletics so far? We're 4 months in. Can we please have a check to see where we are in relationship to the budget and find out, especially if we're not doing our due diligence and collecting other funds, as Larry mentioned, we should find out where we stand financially. I think it's great to bring events into the community for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the kids that are participating in these sports. But safety should be a priority. Thank you.
The budget report that I'm looking at, I could get you that information for the next committee member. I could get you an updated budget report for the committee to share with and see what we were given at the beginning of the year and what we're actually expended and what the current balance is. I'm not sure if the one I looked at is the most up to date, but that way it'll be up to date after the bills are paid from the board meeting on the 26th. So we could share that information for the November committee meeting. That'll be fine. That won't be a problem.
People requested to speak. I've had an opportunity to speak. Mr. Spots.
Okay, at this point, I don't have any other items to discuss. So unless the committee does, we'll look for a motion to adjourn the meeting. The next meeting will be Tuesday, November 10th at 9 a.m. And again, it'll be via Zoom.
So moved.
Second to that.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.